sometimes you have to take a look at your zero waste life and evaluate what's working for you and what's definitely not. These are some zero waste swaps that I no longer do after living zero waste for 8 years. And that's okay, not all of our zero waste lives are gonna look the same. These habits that I quit, you might love and do all the time. And maybe some habits that you have quit, I love and do. And that's okay. I'm not saying that you have to quit these are just personal zero waste habits that I have quit. Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all sorts of things zero waste, focusing on free, easy, and fun ways to live low waste. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button if that sounds interesting to you, and if I talk a little bit too fast, there's also a little gear icon right here where you can change the speed of the video to something that better suits you, because this is just how I be. Anyway, number one, being fully plastic free. I was obsessed with perfection circa 2019-2020 when I first started going zero waste seriously, as well as when I was seeing all these other influencers online seemingly perfect. I gave up supplements because they came in plastic. I didn't attend cookouts or potlucks because of the paper and plastic waste involved. I didn't buy any treats for myself. I carted around my bamboo utensils with me everywhere, and if I forgot my reusable takeout container, I would gorge myself on food to prevent food waste and physical waste. It was unhealthy. Of course, today I still pursue to be as plastic free as possible. I use a reusable water bottle, I use a reusable coffee cup, I use reusable grocery bags, I shop at the bulk store, etc. I do as much as I can, but I take some of that weight off of my plate. I no longer sacrifice my mental and physical health for the planet. So as I said, I shop at the bulk store, but on that same trip, I might buy a little chocolate truffle that's available at the register. I might make my own sourdough, but I might also top it with hummus that comes in a plastic container. So I'm more focused on balance for two main reasons. One, I was literally about to give up zero waste living in 2021. I was so burnt out, I was so sad, I wasn't eating any foods I enjoyed, I wasn't doing any of my hobbies anymore, and I missed my old life. So at the time, I thought that I could either give up zero waste completely or just dial it back from 100% to like 90%. I liked option 2 better. It still allowed me to care for the planet, but it took some pressure off of me because number 2, I finally realized that climate change is not my fault. I don't know why it took me years, but perhaps it was because of the pressure of the internet. Obviously, I have an impact, good or bad, but by me taking a flight every now and then, by me buying a little pint of ice cream every now and then, that action is not killing the planet. Nor is giving up that ice cream, giving up that flight going to save the planet. I could talk in circles all day long about how our small actions matter, but also our small actions are not the sole reason for climate change, but I will leave you with that. Number 2, very similarly, I used to make everything from scratch. Partially, this was because it was 2020, I was working less, and I had more time. But this was also in a very obsessive way that I wanted to be perfectly plastic free. I made so much from scratch in 2020. Peanut butter, milk, hummus, butter, cleaners, toothpaste, you name it, I probably tried it. This not only took up about every waking moment of my life, I actually just watched an old video of mine. I think I was dyeing socks with food waste, which was a really fun experiment. But in that video, I literally was talking about how I no longer had time to crochet because I was making all of this stuff from scratch. But also, not only the fact that I no longer had no free time, I also didn't even like any of the stuff that I was making. The homemade milk, disgusting. It separated, it was gummy, it was terrible texture, it was gritty. The homemade hummus, it was fine, but it really just was not what I liked in a hummus. So I was either eating and consuming stuff that I didn't like in an effort to prevent food waste, or I was throwing it away and creating food waste. While I still make plenty of stuff from scratch, I stick to the stuff that I'm good at and that I enjoy. I like homemade peanut butter. I like homemade sourdough. I like homemade kombucha. But for stuff like hummus that I did not like, plant milk that I did not like, I'm gonna consume it in plastic. There is a balance, right? Plastic waste is bad. Food waste is bad. Which one is worse? It's hard to say, it depends on the person. I would rather reduce less food waste and also consume something that I enjoy. So instead, I opt for recyclable packaging and find ways to reuse it first. Where I can, I get stuff like peanut butter at the refill store, use cleaning tablets that I can add to existing bottles at home, and support small brands and recyclable materials. Again, it's not perfect, but that striving for perfection literally made me miserable. And even then, I still wasn't perfect, and the planet was not saved. So I was forcing myself to drink gross plant milk and eat gross hummus made from scratch, and the planet kept on burning. Okay, number 3, I quit eco toothpaste. Paste, tabs, fluoride free, none of it. This should go without saying, but I do not want any advice. And at the end of the day, I'm gonna do what's best for my health, because around this time last year, I had 10 cavities filled. That's right. 10. Now, how did I get 10 cavities? It's hard to pinpoint a precise culprit. I was not the world's best flosser. My teeth extremely close together, which makes me more prone to cavities. Genetics. My family has a history of cavities. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, in which they never told me that I had any evidence of cavities. If they would have told me years and years ago, I could have prevented them. And 5, I was using fluoride-free toothpaste. Again, I'm not exactly putting the blame on the fluoride-free toothpaste, but in an effort to be as cavity-free moving forward, I'm gonna stick to high fluoride toothpaste, just as a precaution. But one reason that I think this toothpaste could be to blame is because I was pretty good about brushing my teeth. I could have been better at flossing. But brushing alone, with this fluoride-free toothpaste obviously didn't do me any good. Because also, I rarely ate candy, I never drink soda, but I was using fluoride-free toothpaste for 3+ years for the sake of the planet. Now, of course, there are plenty of eco brands now that do put fluoride in their toothpaste, but also many of these eco toothpastes, I just don't like, and that's okay. But since I got those cavities, I was prescribed some prescription strength toothpaste, and that is what I have been using ever since, and I'll keep using that until the prescription runs out. Moving forward, I think I will keep trying to get a prescription if they will give it to me, and if not, I will stick to Tom's of Maine because they are eco-ish and they have fluoride. They're not perfect, but it's about as good as I can get. And with just how severely your teeth can impact your life, because I have pain now. I have chronic pain up here in my teeth because of how bad the cavities were. It's not something to mess around with, so I take my teeth health seriously now, and I encourage you to as well. You're gonna start to pick up on a common theme from here on out, and that is a lot of these zero waste swaps and habits I gave up because we moved into an RV nearly 2 years ago. The first one of those being composting. Yep, I had to give it up when we moved into an RV. Hopefully that's pretty obvious. In an RV, you do not have space to compost, and you do not have a curb to have curbside compost pickup. But composting is literally a zero waste swap that I recommend everybody do. I think it's one of the best things that we can do for the planet to prevent food waste from going to the landfill. So I sort of compost using a Lomi composter machine. We started using this in the RV because it was the only option, and now that we are in an apartment, we still don't have curbside composting, so we're still using the Lomi. Because in Vegas, we rented, but it was a rental house where we had a yard. Here, we're like in a little townhouse situation, we don't have a yard. And while I don't love the Lomi because I kind of think that they're greenwashing, check out this video, and two, because it does use energy, it's not really compost, etc., etc. I still think it is better than sending that food waste to the landfill. And I already have it. It's our only composting option, so I'm gonna keep using it. Hopefully one day I can get back into true composting because I think it's fun, I think it has a great benefit to the planet, and hey, free fertilizer. But for now, this is what I have to do. If you wanna start composting for yourself, I have a video right here with 12 ways that I think everybody can compost. And if you want to try a composter machine that is not the Lomi, because I don't really love them as a company, I recommend Mill. That's kind of a new one. It seems bigger, it seems better. If you want me to dive into it and dig into that brand, let me know. Bringing it back to 2020 once again, I no longer carbon offset. That's right. I used to feel so guilty about taking flights back in my day, that I used to pay to somebody to plant trees to carbon offset my flight because the internet had me feeling extremely guilty about it, even though I was taking very few flights a year. And at the time, I lived on an island. It was the only way I could leave the island was by plane. So in order to justify this was my only means of transportation and also the happiness and joy that travel brought me, I would pay to offset my emissions. It wasn't a lot, it was like $10 per flight, so I didn't think much of it. But then I started to evaluate carbon offsetting, and I made a full video on it a few years ago that you can check out up here. But it's kind of a scam. In short, we have to think about how long it takes for a tree to grow. Decades. Sure, that tree will eventually offset the emissions of my flight, but the damage has already been done. Plus, if I fly from, say, for example, California to Ohio, but my tree is planted in some other country, in some other hemisphere, is that really making a difference? I'm making an impact here, locally. So instead, I simply acknowledge my impact on the planet, and I will take other actions to offset in my personal local life. I'm never gonna say planting trees is bad, but I don't think that planting a tree for taking a flight is the solution. And at the end of the day too, it comes back to relieving myself of that guilt. Taking one flight a year to go see family, taking one vacation per year, that is not killing the planet. And the way I look at it too is I'm not gonna feel guilty for the occasional stuff that I do. Now, if I were to be using a plastic water bottle every day, I might feel guilty about that because that's a lot of plastic and that adds up, and that's something that I do regularly, daily. But a flight that I take once a year, I don't think that's personally enough to stress about and feel guilty about because it's an occasional wasteful thing. Let me know your thoughts below. All right, I also no longer declutter. That sounds kind of weird coming from an environmentalist. Now, I do get rid of things in my life that, I no longer need. If I look at my bookshelf right here and I see a book that I'm probably never gonna read again, I will take it off my shelf and immediately donate it. I will declutter, but not in the way that I used to. I used to let stuff pile up in closets and piles and hordes of junk and tackle it all at once. It was stressful, it was a lot. Now, I see something I no longer want, instantly donate it the next time I go to the store, instantly take it to a free little library, instantly post it to my Buy Nothing group. Any of those options. As well as living in an RV really taught us to not hold on to stuff that we no longer need because we didn't have space for extra stuff, and no longer bring stuff into our house that we no longer need. When you have a lot of space like this, it can be very easy to say, I love that decor, I love that little device, I love XYZ. Bring it into your house, probably never use it. But living in an RV and getting into that mindset for a year and a half of where are we gonna put this? How often are we gonna use it? How are we gonna use it? Etc., etc. Because we did not have extra space living in an RV. So we really had to be mindful about what we brought into our house. And I think so far, we're doing a pretty good job about that in our apartment, even though we have more space. Finding objects that can serve multiple purposes. Instead of having a stand mixer, a blender, a food processor, a hand mixer, an immersion blender, 5 separate devices, we just have one that can accomplish all of those tasks. Plus, I love having less stuff to organize, less stuff to clean, less stuff to have to worry about, and that took practice over the course of a year and a half. But if you have no idea where to start, I have this video right here for tips for decluttering. Geez, I think from 2021. 4 years. How's it been 4 years? Kind of on the opposite wave of thinking is I quit hoarding stuff because I felt guilty about throwing it away. And perhaps this goes into my not having to declutter as often because I don't keep as much. I throw a lot of stuff away. Maybe not a lot of stuff because we don't create a lot of waste to begin with. Back in the day, I would save everything. Every little piece of plastic, every little piece of ribbon and string, etc., etc. And I think there's value in that, right? I still save rubber bands because I use them often. I still save plastic bags because I use them often. Hopefully you're picking up on the theme here. I save stuff that I know I'm going to use. Because I used to save everything and be like, oh, I will use that eventually, maybe, possibly. And it would go in a closet and collect dust, and then I would end up throwing it away or recycling it years later. So why not just expedite the process and recycle it or throw it away now? Living in an RV really taught me this. I did not have the luxury of being able to hold on to stuff with the hopes of using it in a project later. I had to have an idea and use it right that second. Now, I do have the ability to hold on to stuff for future use now that we do have more space, but I'm still gonna be mindful about it. If I have a project in mind, or a goal to use that thing, I don't care if I make something right that second or I make something in a few weeks or few months. If I have an idea, I will keep it. A few things recently, we had a lot of boxes from moving, so I saved plenty of them to make this homemade cat scratcher and some homemade ornaments for the holiday season. Because again, I had an actual project in mind. When we lived in Japan and Las Vegas, my craft closet, my craft room would just be overflowing with stuff that I did end up just recycling or throwing away. And thanks to the RV, I have broken out of that habit, and I don't think I'm gonna pick it up again. Next is eco-bricking. Once again, I had to give this up because we moved into the RV. I started eco-bricking in Las Vegas, and once again, we just simply did not have the space to hold on to a bunch of plastic garbage in the RV, so I quit doing it. It was fun while it lasted. I enjoyed eco-bricking, and I think there is a value in it, and you can check out more about eco-bricking in this video, but this was just something that I could not continue. Not only because of lack of space, but also because we really were not producing that much plastic. Especially now, like I would be holding onto this plastic in the hopes of filling a bottle over the course of months, which seems a little pointless to me. Now, I think if you use a lot of plastic, there is a benefit to eco-bricking, but I just don't think I use enough. Not to mention, I would have to hold on to them until I either like sent them to my mom to use at her school, which I'm not even sure if she did, or I would have to ship it to somebody else, or I'd have to give it away for free in my local Buy Nothing group, and it was just a lot of work that I did not want to do anymore. For very little reward for myself and for very little impact on the planet. I think there still is value, but I don't think it's the most impactful thing that we could be doing with our time. But for me personally, I'm giving it up. So instead, I focus on reducing that plastic to begin with. We shop a lot in the bulk bins now, which has greatly reduced our reliance on thin plastics. I also do more evaluating in the grocery store if I can find something that I'm looking for in another material. Of course, eco-bricking is no excuse to consume more plastic. It is a last resort before the landfill. Sorry, I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but the next one we quit doing because we moved into an RV, and that is catching gray water. That's only one reason though. Two other reasons I quit doing it was because one, we moved out of a drought-stricken area where it was no longer required to be so stingy about water usage, and three, it was disgusting. Of course, moving into the RV was the biggest immediate factor because we didn't have space to store these buckets and catch it, and we also had no purpose for catching the gray water. When we lived in Vegas, we had to water our plants outside because we lived in an HOA and we were not allowed to let them die or rip them out. Plus, RVs are also designed for water conservation. We have low flush toilets, we have a low flow shower head, and also had a little button on there that could stop the water flow. So we were still conserving water. Don't get me wrong. I still think water conservation is extremely important no matter where you live, but there was just no reason for us to cart around buckets, catch gray water in, and then also have no use for. But I don't have to stress nearly as much as I did when I lived in Vegas. But also a last reason for stopping this particular habit was it was gross. This is perhaps the weirdest, grossest thing I have ever done for the planet. We had buckets that we found in the curbside trash. That's not even the gross part. So it was eco, it was secondhand, and we would place these buckets in our kitchen and in our shower. We caught all water. Soapy water from the shower, bloody water from washing out my period underwear, and dirty, crusty, full of food waste kitchen water. Again, this is not even the gross part. It would be different if I that bucket was full, immediately dumped it on a bush outside, but we did not. I'm like embarrassed. We had like 5 or 6 buckets, set them on our back patio, and wait until all of them were full before we dumped them. Do you know how hot it is in Las Vegas? It gets upwards of 120 degrees. They would sit there and fester in the summer heat. Vile. Thankfully, we didn't have mosquitoes. This was brought up several times, like, oh my gosh, isn't that bad for the mosquitoes? No. No mosquitoes in Las Vegas, and that's why we did it. It was like, it's not attracting bugs, it's not attracting pests. It's less effort to let them pile up, but those buckets, probably a biohazard, honestly. It was disgusting. Anyway, do I regret it? Absolutely not. It cut our water usage in half when we lived in Vegas, which was so important, but I will gladly find other ways to conserve water these days, as opposed to doing that again. More water conservation tips down below that do not include doing this gross thing. The last eco habit that I have given up is hyper focusing on individual action. I've already mentioned that throughout this video, but this is specifically for other people. When I first started doing this for myself, I was still low-key judging other people. Oh my gosh, how dare this other ego person use some plastic? And one day I was just like, wait, who am I to judge? I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking the pressure off myself. I need to take pressure off of everyone else as well. Now, the rest of these in this video, do them, don't do them, but I really encourage everyone to do this one. None of us really judge ourselves that harshly. I hope not. I hope that you're not judging yourself too harshly, but I think plenty of us judge each other way too harshly, and that is such a problem. I get so much hate because I have blue hair, because I use a phone, because I do XYZ. Plenty of my eco creator friends get hate for using fake nails, for driving a car, for traveling, etc. So first off, how hypocritical of me and of other people for doing the same thing. And two, we're not the problem. This is exactly what they want. You know, the government, the corporations, they want us to be blaming each other instead of looking at them, the real culprits. And of course, this has taken time to learn, to ease that guilt off of myself and of others, because in the late 2010s, zero waste was all about individual action. It was about the trash jar, it was about shopping at the bulk store, it was about putting the blame on ourselves. I'm really glad there has been a shift in the last 5 years or so towards more corporate, government, collective action. That is fantastic, but it does take a while for all of us to unlearn those toxic mindsets. I've said it before and I'll say it again, our small actions matter. Small good actions, keep doing them. But your small wasteful actions are not killing the planet, unless Elon Musk is watching this. And if so, go away. The movement needs a broader and faster shift to corporate and government action. We're moving there, but we need more people to hop on. I get so much hate about my blue hair or tattoos or something else small, wasteful that I do. Sure, I'm not perfect, but I'm also not to blame, and neither are you. So let's shift the blame to where it truly belongs. Let's advocate for change where it will matter significantly more. At the end of the day, using my reusable water bottle, great impact on the planet, but look, it hasn't saved the planet yet, and it won't ever, because we need bigger action, which you want me to talk more about in future videos. Definitely let me know. That is something that I am interested in learning about this year personally, on how to take a government action, how to take corporate action, how to build collective action, etc. So if there's interest in that, let me know. I'm happy to make it. Similarly, I have made videos in the past about zero waste swaps that I hate. Some of them I truly despise, some of them just no longer work for me, which is sad. I will leave those videos tagged down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you found some inspiration in it. And once again, thank you for watching. If you're new here and you like content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video if you enjoyed it, and let us know down below what zero waste swaps and habits you have given up because you no longer enjoy them. Zero waste journeys are ever changing. My zero waste journey looks totally different from 2019, from 2020, from 2021. Zero waste journeys are not supposed to look the same year after year after year. It is okay to give stuff up. It is okay to pick up old habits. It is okay to try something new. Anyway, I will see you in the next video, which are zero waste swaps that I do because I'm lazy. Still working on the title. Lazy zero waste swaps that save me time and energy, something along those lines. That is next week's video. I'll see you over there, but until then, remember that your small actions make a big difference in the long run. Bye guys. This should go without saying, but I do not want any, whatever that'll do.